Okay, there's so many, so many, so many saints, or hopefully saints that are eventually, are gonna be canonized, or of course these things take time because it there's so much to be. It takes time, and it can take time. You gotta find not like a scientific kind of thing, but there needs to be confirmed miracles, and some of those are not that easily obvious because of different reasons or circumstances, uh, cover-ups, or who knows the times the people live in. And but of course there's many reasons to believe. The times haven't changed. People are the same. People are not much different if you really think about it. The struggles are not much different, even if we look into history. But it really struck me a long time ago about here's from this is from the small excerpt of Father Arseny, prisoner in the time of communism, Russia. He was college-educated scholar and a spiritual father, confessor, a priest. That's in times of persecution. It was not easy to practice orthodoxy or Christianity per se, and many of those who were clergy were not clergy. It was a disguise. It was a trap. And like many things like this happen, even here, anywhere, where fraudulent stuff or stuff that doesn't never gets caught. Things are tricked and people are trapped. It's deception. This was the time of when Russia was reigned by the time of Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin. And look into their biographies and see their lives and their personality traits, what went on, how this got to where. So their speeches, their public speeches in the beginning, okay, compare those to what they sounded like. But anyway, there was these camps, prison camps, are intended to kill, and people were not expected to live, and they were. If you look into it, you notice they were targeting the priests, the actual priests, the handicapped, the sick and the suffering. The ones with no defenses, and it was always, under the guise of enemies of the government, or it was. But there was no choice but to trust the system, for most people. But just like today, I would always say people will be people, but the system itself is not your friend. Things happen, and not everyone's honest, or you never know. But this particular story about this was in the 20th century, recent times still. Can you imagine? Okay, think about below freezing. If you've been in extreme cold, like 30 below, 60 below, if you know what cold is, And these were labor camps spread throughout Russia, and it was in the communist times. It was around the 30s when this happened. Just imagine middle-aged people, old. Times are changing because people are living longer, it seems. So middle-aged people back then, of course, it's pretty much an old person, and chopping wood, it was survival. And there's no axes allowed on the prison camps, so you'd have to figure things out with wedges of wood and make certain things as a hammer. But if no matter how exhausted you were, no matter how old you were, no matter what, if you didn't do it, everyone would die or you'd get beaten. There was no way around it because yeah, that was all they had. And very small rations of food. Not enough food. There was no hygiene. And it was intended to be cruel. There was nothing humane about it. There was nothing humane about any of this. And the freezing cold is hard. The snow, the dampness of them and the freezing, and imagine that. And Father Arseny, he was always vigilant. He made sure he kept moving and keep the logs going. Kept them going, and because if he knew if wood wasn't done on time, he'd be punished and beaten, not only by guards but prisoners too. So just to kind of get a little background insight on that, that can also be looked into, research on that. His only one set of clothes that he was given, considered still good because he was only there at this time, only a few months in. Okay, then there was those, thugs. Ivan the Brown was kind of like the top dog, criminal, the one everyone's afraid of around there. The prisoners are. And there was a game that the criminals played amongst each other in the barracks. It was like he had a card game with clothes at stake. Everyone knew this. There was this new guy here, there was a new boy that was there, and they knew that he hasn't caught on to this yet, and they really meant it. When you play the cards with your game with your clothes at stake, so he basically lost everything, and they knew he will be naked. So Ivan the Brown, he goes up to him. He goes up to the new guy, Alexei. The camp rule was whoever intervenes would be killed. Those in the camp a good while knew very well, if criminals decided to play for your clothes, to resist till the end of you. That's it. That's just what it is. Ivan the Brown won all the young man's clothes, and Ivan approached him saying, "Take everything off. Take everything off, my friend." And the new guy, whose name is Alexei, thought that the game was just for fun. He refused. Ivan the Brown decided to taunt him, mocking his kindness. And then just beat him, just snarky and mocking him, and then just badly beat him like he did not see that coming. All everyone can do was just watch as Ivan was bashing Alexei. Alexei bled from his mouth and face, and was swaying. So he was smashed on ground. Yeah, just messed up really bad. Ear torn. It was just really bad. So Alexei, he was bleeding from his mouth and his face all over, swaying. So imagine that. And then, of course, other criminals were taunting him, mocking him, urging him to fight back when he was basically helpless. He was already helpless. And at that very moment, Father Arseny was on the other side of the barracks. He didn't see the start of this, but he was at the other side, piling up logs near a stove. When he saw that, and he saw what was happening. It was right as Ivan was going to kill Alexei. All Alexei could do was cover his face with his hands as he's being slammed and smashed repeatedly. Calmly, Father Arseny, near the stove, walked to the fight, grabbed Ivan's arm. Ivan didn't expect that. No one did. No one saw that come. No one did anything like that. Ivan didn't expect that. The priest, Father Arseny, interfered in a fight. Okay, that's not. It's recommendable. Like, who does that? They, stay in your lane. Because you don't want something. So yeah, this meant he must die. Ivan hated him. He hated Father Arseny so much that he never dared to touch him for fear of the rest of the barracks. Now, this pushed his limit. He had a true reason to kill Alexei. So, yeah, Ivan stopped beating Alexei. Okay, it's the end. It's the end for you. Ivan pulled out a shank, a knife, going right at Alexei. No one understood what just happened. But now the gentle, weak, frail Father Arseny straightened up, slammed Ivan on the arm so hard the knife dropped. And then pushed Ivan from Alexei. Ivan, he fell, hit himself in the corner of a bunk, and hit his face on that. And then he went to Alexei saying, "Go wash your face. No one's gonna hurt you now." And then, like nothing happened. Father Arseny just went back to work, carried on. So everyone else there was a silence. Like everyone was in shock. Like that just doesn't happen. Ivan the Brown. He stood up to Ivan the Brown. Yeah, I think if you understand some scenarios where something goes on and everyone's intimidated by certain things. It's just there's certain lines that people just don't look across. Like, okay, no, they're intimidated by it can be all kinds. It happens a lot, but yeah, but that was not expected at all. So Ivan lost his. But what that did, that just hurt his ego. That broke his facade for a moment. That no one did that to him ever. That threw things off in front of the whole barracks. Imagine that could have been humiliating, but really, if you've seen the worst of the worst people, or who's considered the worst people, it's really not what people think. Because people are just people. So Alexei's face completely smashed, torn ear, one eye closed, the other one is so dark, completely dark red. Yeah, everything was silent. But this did also mean it's over for both Father Arseny and Alexei. So what happened was the criminals now respected Father Arseny. They didn't expect someone to be like that. He had no fear. They knew Father for being kind and a little different. And now this was a new level of respect. This was something else. No one did that. Next morning, like another dark, freezing, of course, with harsh winds, cold morning. Like it was negative, below 30 Fahrenheit equivalent, as prisoners are doing their work until the evening. Then sudden shout from the supervisor that ran in with several guards just before the barracks were locked for the night. He yelled, "Attention!" He shouted. All jumped from their bunks, lined up. And motionless, like they were just, yeah, that was. When he came to Father Arseny, he began beating him. As Alexei is dragged by the guards, dragged literally, and prisoner 18376 and prisoner 281 to cell number 1 for 48 hours without food or water for breaking camp rules. For fighting. Okay, shouted the officer. Ivan reported him. Snitched, yeah, Ivan. He couldn't face what he did, obviously, but so he snitched. So, by criminals, this was considered the lowest act possible. Punishment cell number 1 was tiny by the entrance of the camp. It had a room for 2 people that held a narrow board instead of a bed. Less than 20 inches wide, floor and walls covered with sheets of metal. The whole room was, no wider than 3/4 of a yard and 2 yards long. To step outside, it just can make you completely numb from that, And only ones there, stayed alive were who could be able to jump non-stop to keep their blood from freezing. The only way, it was not intended for you to live. This was even there, I guess, it was not even something, even in the system anyway, people just don't always, they just are cruel to be cruel, but this was, you don't know exactly the words someone said behind their backs, but, but it stirred up something, but, but this was not even a normal punishment at that camp. It was even shocking to them. Okay, Father Arseny was an old man. Alexei just got brutally beat up, both exhausted. The supervisors seized them by dragging them. And two prisoners out of that line dared come out of the line. Comrade officer, they will freeze to death. Those 2 got slammed hard. They were knocked out. Father Arseny and Alexei were dragged to the cell and shoved in, hit their heads against the wall hard. Pitch black inside. Father Arseny stood saying, "God has brought us here together. It's cold, Alexei. There is metal all around." They heard the outer door close, locks click, voices and steps of the guards fade. Cold constricted their chests. The little window had iron bars where you can see the moon shine. Alexei was, of course, emotional, moaning in agony. He says, "We're going to freeze, our brothers, and because of me, we're going to freeze. We're going to die here. They are inhumane. Better to be shot." It was understandably just, The father remained silent. Alexei tried to jump, but he felt hopeless. He asked, "Father, why don't you say anything?" He said, "I am praying. I am praying to God." He's like, "What's there to pray about?" I was like, "We're here alone, Alexei. For 2 days, no one will come. We will pray. For the first time, God has allowed us to pray in this camp with our full voice. We will pray. The rest is in God's hands." The cold was getting to Alexei. He was sure Father Arseny was nuts. So, yeah. Making the sign of the cross. So, quietly pronouncing some words, Father stood in the moonlight. Alexei felt numb all over, no strength, no longer cared. Father Arseny was silent now. Alexei he began hearing words clearly. That this was a prayer. Alexei had been in church, but only once, only out of curiosity. His grandmother had him baptized as a baby, but his family wasn't. His family was not religious. Although Father Arseny started praying. His Father's words were, "O Lord God, have mercy on us sinners. Ever merciful God, Lord Jesus Christ, who because of thy love became man to save us all through thine unspeakable mercy to save us. Have mercy on us. Lead us away from this cruel death, because we do believe in thee, our God and Creator." All the words sunk in. Alexei was listening, calming him. He wasn't feeling fear or death. He wasn't feeling like the fear of death. United with this old man next to him, he didn't know if he was sitting or standing. His body was numb, but was repeating the words, the prayers Father was reciting. Father's voice filled the cell. He started to sense and see white vestments. And it's like the room became a church. Yeah, then now this was, it was, and and then he didn't see he couldn't distinguish their faces, but there was two other priests. There was two other priests assisting him, also in white vestments. And but he just saw pure beauty. As he was united with the words, but this is like an example of how powerful praying actually is. And when you do go to church, when you see when the priest is in the altar, if you may or may not have heard about it, but they're not alone in that. It's the angels help them. What he likely saw was what he sensed and realized that this was real, and you can't make of what else was there, but it was the angels are helping them when they pray. When you see and they're not alone. This is because that's. I'm just saying as a side note, that's a very real thing. The angels do help them in the altar. That's when the priest is praying. That's what it is. And even if it's all you have is your prayers, it's because God is right here. It's when He's within us. Even at your chrismation and the baptism, I unite myself to Christ. These are very real. So, anyway, Alexei, he now stood up praying with Father. He subconsciously, he understood every word. And he understood Father Arseny hadn't forgotten him. He was helping him this whole time. Just like, when you love someone, or when a parent doesn't love a child, and a father doesn't forget. And what they're doing is because it's for God right there, because Christ never forgets us. He never forgets. The priest wasn't forgetting, so that was sense. It was hitting him now. It was real. That was clear. So the certainty of God's existence, that Christ, was with them, came to Alexei. Father told him, lay down, you're tired. I'll keep praying, you'll hear me. And it was just, he continued to pray. It was, words he, memorized, and also it's okay to talk to God like a friend, it's okay because he's your creator. And so imagine this, like this priest that was here, no congregation, no supporters, no loved ones nearby, no vestments, no icons, no communion. There's no icon corner, or ability to. There's all he had was, what they had is never lost hope, never, because it is real. I'm seeing if I can remember how to tie the prayer up. It's been a long time, it's been a little while for me. I learned when I was like 12, and then I've done it a long time, but it's kind of a thin yarn, but I kind of tripled it, but it's real wool, but I dabble in this again, so getting back into it, because this kind of used to keep me focused a lot too when I did more of these. Anyway, so, because I think I'm sure there's even power in doing this, because it does help me, but he was letting Alexei just relax and lay down, and that was love, pure love right there. But Alexei kept, he was drawn to it. He was with it. He was with him, and he still prayed with him on that. It was not just what he thought. It really, it caught on to him. So, because if it's really very simple, it's like the Father is right there. Just like you, if you love, if you know the love of your Father, imagine how close God is. It's even beyond what we can comprehend and experience, and it's so that there was, he was losing track of time. It was like the overwhelming fear was just not relevant anymore. It was that comfort, that warmth, that love. It was real, because Christ doesn't abandon you. And Father Arseny kept praying for them, both of them, with them. So it was, and it has those, as he still saw the other two, what he thought, it looked like priests, but but when a priest serves, he's serving with it. There's angels guiding them, helping them when they're serving and praying. And it was out of his control. That, of course, was not in a church, but it was connection with God. That's what says a lot about what is church really. It starts at home, and it starts with ourselves, and there's no reason to lose hope. So this was so it kept, he never, so he didn't stop. He just kept praying, and it's the love of from God and to people, his love for serving people. He just let him rest, and he kept standing vigilant and prayed, as he was also assisted with praying. And so it was kind of like, it reminded Alexei of when he visited a church once. It just took him back to that, and he remembered that something familiar. It was because the church is not the physical. It is, it belongs to Christ. It is from Christ. And so it's what this is an example of what it really means. You know, it's so anyway. But after some time, someone struck the door. Frozen lock squealed. He said, "Get up, Alexei. They have come for us." He got up. Head of the the head of the camp, doctor, main head of special sector, and the major coming in. They're alive? They're... How? Search them. Search them. He said search them. Yeah, they were in shock. Like, no. What kept you alive? Because he was wondering, where's the flame? Where is their flame? Who put a flame? They were distraught by this. What kept them alive? Because they walked out, after they were told to. They were just, in shock. Like, wow, how could they do it? And and he said, well, he did say, God kept us alive. He says, you are fanatics. Oh, they're just mocking them and everything. So it was, and they were just still, because they were ready to, they were all prepared to handle 2 frozen dead bodies, and they didn't want that situation to get reported to Moscow. But it was because these are very subtle miracles. But yeah, this is just a little part, one of many from that particular priest's life. And there was, and it's more from translations, but there are other stories kept from those times, and it's really sad and cruel. And many priests were, dragged there by their beard. Or there was one I read about. He was dragged by his beard, stripped, naked, dragged over the snow, and they can. Nobody knows what. Not all people know what happens, but not everyone gets to see what happened, witness it. But many disappear. Many just get tortured to death, and they were killed. They were just. So, everything was taken from them. So, but yeah, this says a lot more about faith than a lot of us are used to understanding. So, in times of things going on here, people can relate in different ways here, due to manipulators, abusers, cruelty, so much, the result of slander, and so many situations can test us, and we can find the silver lining. There usually is silver lining. But to have a church closed is not a tragedy, because because by the way, the first church is in your home. Because that's where you learn. That's where you start with yourself. There's calendars are available. Those have the daily readings, and you may not have a divine liturgy without a priest, he needs, for the divine liturgy, they need that equipment for that, but still, imagine when things happen, the priest is gone or something. There is no more priest. There is no more. You can't have them. But in the end, everything, that is not itself what saves you. Because the goal is to save. Christ is calling us to have our souls saved. He's calling us home. Not to condemn us. It's not about that. It's not about a perfect church. There is no. We are sinners. We're working on ourselves, but He still loves us, and it's basically just come home. Well, just come home. this place is, this place is harsh. You just come home. As you do the best you can, what really matters is what's in your heart in the end. So, but yeah, this is, because if there's more details on reading from these lives, they're actually not much different than what people go through now in different ways. People can be equally cruel and savage and dishonest, and it's right in front of everybody and nobody sees it, or they might or might not, and others turn their backs. There's a lot there. Deception, lies, and deception are a big enemy, and there's it's just, it divides people. It's how people treat each other is a big deal. But yeah, our goal is not the perfect church. The goal is one church. So yeah, so just a couple of small notes here, but I don't know. I didn't really count how many. I didn't really count how many knots I just kind of guesstimated because it's supposed to be like with yarn, it's one bell arm length is about for 10 knots, I think. That's kind of do some. I'll try. I haven't done this in a while, but I'll see how. I think this could probably make a 33 knots. I don't know. I will see. But yeah, but there are more lives out from even recent history that really should have more recognition, but apply it to your life, like really take it in, and there's a reason for, there's a reason for these lives being exposed, for being recorded, and what they went through. And because imagine if that mentality of, okay, let it go, move on, forgive and forget. No, that's, to resilience. This is exactly what it's all about. It's okay to say the truth. It's okay. The truth is the truth, and this is resilience is definitely important, but that's also part of the love of loving people, loving yourself is, we already move forward, that's natural, but there's times really haven't changed, because people will still be people, and the system is still the system. It's not, I always say the system is not your friend, but it helps to look back in a little history and to learn, and what traits are going to be repeated or not, and what can we pick up from that. But imagine the humiliation, and there was no internet, of course, and there was just, and look into other people going through that in that time frame, and there's so much you can say repeats here. Not pointing to politics or people. Is look in your life, or someone or people that and what personality traits or what circumstances are basically equivalent. Because if people have been through malicious situations that never got help, or they didn't have the resources, or the system wasn't meant to help certain situations, and yet you're in America, but how you can. Why do you feel like you can relate to some of these other traumatic situations, and how did they get through it, and how are we treating other people who are going through something? Because in the end, what really matters is how we treat people, what's in people's hearts. But this story of Father Arseny, that really stuck with me, and that really and still does, and but also when we learn things, when we do these spiritual readings, it's not just spiritual, it's history, and it's it's humanity, it's human life, and how do we apply it to ourselves and each other? So Anyway, I just, this is just was something it's just, this story just really stands out to me, and and I don't know if if he will be considered a saint yet. It's, these things, these good things take time, because there needs to be miracles, and there are those subtle miracles like that when things like that, because you can't explain certain things, but it changes their life just by, it followed someone's footsteps. It just happened like that. And these are it was not through charisma. It was not through popularity. It was, yeah, he was just being himself. And I know what it's like to be kind of different, and so there really is no reason to fear anything. So when there was the pandemic, there was really no reason to worry that, you gotta stay home. That's perfect for other things. So everything else, what we're taught, in the end, it is all symbolic, but you can pray in your home. That's the first place you should pray. That's what a prayer book is for. There's the priestless service, without the tipikon. So you really don't need any of what we think, to pray. Our goal is salvation. That's the goal. Not a perfect church, not not what some people think. It is very, very simple. And I've noticed a lot of really great catechumens and inquirers and stuff. And there's, it's very different than my generation. Well, different than my generation. It's just a lot of great potential. Great potential. Never stop learning, never stop asking. But realize it's really very simple. That's about all I have to say. So yeah, we'll see how these knots turn out a little bit later. So anyway, I'm just simple me. I'm just putting this out there, and if I think of something else, I'll share it.